Hello one, hello all, welcome to this Halloween ranking as complete as we have it for right now, which includes 12 films spanning over 6 decades. We've been waiting a very long time for this. I know I've been waiting a very long time to do this updated ranking. I also want to reiterate that I'm technically a Friday the 13th guy, a horror fan nonetheless, but there is a bit of a difference, so if you want to say that my opinion shit, that's all well and good. I have a certain preference. You could say what you want, do what you want in the comments, tell me how wrong I am, tell me what the right list is, but please just respect one another in the comment section and let's have fun, because they're just movies. We're here talking about stuff that we love.
The franchise most horror fans look to for their slasher influence actually had some inspiration in its own right. Whether or not you want to give Psycho, Peeping Tom, or even Black Christmas credit for starting the modern-day version of slashers as we know them, it would be two films and their distinctive look that would conglomerate our current idea of evil. As for the basis of our unstoppable killer from Haddonfield, it evolved slightly from the way Yul Brynner played his character, but you can absolutely see the connections. As for the look, the empty canvas of a mask looking back at you to project your worst fears on was an inspiration of John Carpenter and his history with the French horror film Eyes Without a Face. Adding, we didn't have any money to make a mask. It was a pale mask, featureless. I don't know why I wrote it down like that, but Eyes Without a Face could be the heavy influence. So, with a particular look and a demeanor in which to carry himself, Michael Myers as we know him was born. And it was thanks mostly to the horror of yesteryear. Now that we know how we've come to be so afraid of who it is chasing us, why not get into where and how he's done so? This is the Halloween Franchise Ranking 2021 edition.
Trick or treat, mother.
They've taken the Michael Myers character and just completely disrespected him at the sake of putting Busta Rhymes over. It's strange because Halloween Resurrection has like genuine star power, and it is really, really bad. Some of the decisions are really questionable. So maybe they're onto something, because modern day porn has got that idea that they started way back in Halloween Resurrection and ran with it. Who knew people want to see step brothers and sisters get at it? Whether or not they want to see them get at it after a beheading, that's a different story. Anyway, to the movie itself and what I have a problem with, the Halloween franchise, perhaps the strongest slasher in all of the major franchises. Everything about what they do to the Michael Myers character and at the expense of Michael Myers is kind of offensive. Halloween isn't my favorite franchise, but I'm offended at what they did to that character.
I said, what you looking at me like that for? Huh?
Hello? Hey, think McFly.
Your shit ain't working up there or something?
It's just too silly. Busta Rhymes, way before Vin Diesel was complaining about the way he was treated in Fast and Furious, Busta Rhymes had to get his licks in on a Halloween movie. What is life? I need to make some amendments, and Halloween 5 technically is at the ass end of one of those. Halloween 5 is bad. It's funny how people always say that every major slasher franchise borrows from Halloween. Meanwhile, every slasher franchise borrows, period. And Halloween 5 seems to borrow the most from the Friday the 13th franchise. and I still think it's garbage. Maybe because I feel like it's a bad cover band.
I think we better stop. Please?
Stop here, I want to pack a cigarette. I said stop the goddamn car!
Plus, you factor in that great ending from Halloween 4. And they just kind of screw the pooch with the events of Halloween 5. It just does not work. There are bad movies, there are good movies, there are movies that you don't mind watching again, and there's movies that you just kind of, you're okay if you never witness it again. And that's what Halloween 5 is for me. And that's almost more offensive than a bad movie, something that I don't want to see again. At least, like, bad movies that you can make fun of, you get some sort of pleasure out of that. Halloween 5 is just no. And shall we talk about Donald Pleasance and how weird he was during that movie? How many times in the Halloween franchise have they tried to reignite this sub-trilogy, and every single time they've kind of messed it up for the second or third film? This is no different. A great lead-in from Part 4, but Part 5 really made 6 look like The Godfather 2. As far as ambition is concerned, I'll give this movie a hell of a lot of credit. Some unique cinematography choices that are made. I wouldn't mind seeing Rob Zombie direct films. He needs to stay away from the script.
Fuck! 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 Fuck!
Oh. That must have been a fun page to write and read. What's weird is he's got this affinity with like southern fried 1970s hick white trash shit, but the guy grew up in New York in the 70s and 80s. So where are you pulling this from, Rob? And again, it's ambitious. I'll give it credit for that. Usually slashers are very cut and dry. Guy runs around, kills people. This is a bit high concept, if you will. I don't necessarily want to see a white horse and a ghost unicorn and all that weird shit in my slasher movies. It's nice to flirt with it, but I don't trust Rob Zombie writing and directing. He's got an interesting eye as long as he leaves the camera on a tripod. Pick your version. How they got Paul Rudd out of it. I mean, how Halloween got so many stars out of their franchise and still never really get talked about in that fashion is really interesting. It's out there. It took the aborted premise from 4 to 5 and really went out there and said, hold my beer, for the Man in Black, and it got really, really kind of out there. It's a slasher. This might be a unique script and or premise if it were a video game. Like that might make it cool to try, but to experience as a viewer, no matter which production or whatever edit you watch, it's still a little, to be kind, ambitious. I don't need that much from my horror movies, especially my slasher movies. Granted, there are times where I do appreciate that, but you go to certain movies for certain aspects, and I go to Halloween not for Twin Peaks, not for Inception, not for, heady stuff like that. And when it misses, it really is glaringly obvious that they've missed. This is, just go back to my notes from 31 on 31, what I had to say there, if you want further explanation about why this movie is where it is. But without further ado, let's keep going. Again, he's not an atrocious director. There's something going on there. He just likes to put dick jokes and 13-year-old white trash humor in his movies, and that is not Halloween. It's a shame too, because the first half an hour or so of 2007's Halloween.
Here are the nominees for Best Original Screenplay.
Bitch, I will crawl over there and I will skull fuck the shit out of you.
So unnecessary. If you removed that opening and that whole white trash angle, this movie might be considerably higher for me. But again, keep that man away from the script. Let him film stuff, let him direct people, but don't let him use words. Maybe not trusting the king of slashers to the guy that wrote Dragula.
Yeah!
It gets me excited for that Monsters Rob Zombie remake, and it makes me angry that we don't have Fred Gwynne, because I would have loved to see Fred Gwynne call somebody a cunt-headed cocksucker while having some frayed, white trashy hair. The original movie that took place after 1978's Halloween, good movie. I'm sorry, I have to keep comparing shit to Star Wars, but the way they do Halloween 2 in 81 versus how they do things in Halloween Kills in 2021, you see the two side by side. Granted, horror just never ages well. It doesn't survive the test of time, whether or not we want to admit it. But no matter how different things that are happening in Halloween Kills are, there's a lot that goes on in Kills that reminds you that Halloween 2 is kind of not spectacular. And it's unfortunate, because I thought I enjoyed Halloween 2, and then Halloween Kills comes along and you're like, oh, Halloween 2 is just kind of reserved to this one location, and Halloween Kills does the same thing and goes so far and beyond and makes you think about other people and the entire town. And Halloween 2, as far as the experience is concerned, is a bag of chips. Enjoyable. Lots of people don't mind just having a bag of chips. But when you compare it to something like Halloween Kills, which is similar plot beats and points and all that stuff, Halloween Kills is like a Thanksgiving dinner, which also happens to have potatoes. You have the same things that you had the first time around, and a fuck ton more. I should categorize this under the Halloween Kills ranking, but this is what happens when you revisit rankings. I rewatched Halloween 2 after seeing Halloween Kills and was like, oh, I thought I really enjoyed this, and a different movie's experience has ruined that for me. Thank you, other cinema. Next, we have H2O, directed by Steve Miner, who is a Friday the 13th alum. Also, he's made other things that we'll stay away from. The one thing you could say about horror movies is they're brilliant time capsules into what Hollywood thought young men and women were into and what was driving producers back then. H2O essentially is the Faculty with a Michael Myers twist. Half of the cast from the Faculty with the soundtrack from Scream. Good movie. It's a good movie. It just seems to age less fantastically. And again, with the storylines, well, technically H2O is in a different world altogether now, so this is a non-canon story. There's pieces of what they do in H2O, again, that are done a bit better in the 2018 trilogy that remind you that, oh yeah, this is a really neat idea, and they've taken the time to improve it. So when you see something that you thought you enjoyed and you see it improved upon, it makes it harder to go back and appreciate that stuff. Very vividly, without the success of Scream, we wouldn't have the rejuvenation of Halloween, nor would we have the score and soundtrack of H2O. So this is definitely a moment in time if you ever want to get an idea of what the horror landscape was in the mid to late 90s, when Hollywood thought that horror was completely back. They were trying everything they could. H2O is a good time, but looking back on it, and since you've seen it improved upon, you can point at things and be like, oh, they did this because Scream was a success. The 90s was such an interesting time. The late 90s for horror sticks out, and that's all I'll say about that. I don't want to piss off any people one way or another. The late 90s for horror is very distinct, and to see that we actually have a Halloween movie in that bunch is very, very interesting to me. You might want to show up on time though, because if you turn it on a little too late, you're going to miss JGL. Spoiler. I had it ranked a lot lower than it deserved to be ranked, and I'll tell you why. I did say so in the video itself. I liked the idea that 4, 5, and 6 were setting up, and because 5 screwed the pooch so much, it kind of stained my appreciation for Halloween 4, and unfairly to Halloween 4, I let that affect my score for Halloween 4. And going back and watching it, I was like, no, this is actually a really good movie. It's part of the problem when you watch like 10 movies in 4 days. You have to let them all breathe for their own little thing. Unless, of course, you have a Halloween 2018 Halloween Kills type thing where they kind of take place within hours of each other, which is a neat idea. I would say do it either way, but you shouldn't do it for everything. And I did it for Halloween 4 and 5, and because 5 is such a disappointment, it really ruined that ending of Halloween 4. To spoil things, a franchise that was trying to go in a completely different direction and not doing it the way they did in Halloween 3 was ballsy, and I loved it. The things that they were doing with Danielle Harris, I was really, really gassed up about. I bought into where the direction they were taking it in. This giant parallel to 1978 with Danielle Harris's character, and they just really don't do that. It would have been interesting to see them go in a similar but different direction as they did with 78 to Halloween 4, and regardless of what happens afterwards, it's still a really good movie, and a hell of an ending that just doesn't get paid off. There's a lot of rhyming in the Halloween franchise, a lot of things that happen later on in the franchise, a lot of symmetry, and that's something you have to give them credit for. They're not just mailing it in like certain franchises. They're trying to do stuff. Even if they miss, the Halloween franchise, they've always taken chances, creatively speaking. And Halloween 4 was one that paid off. Then Halloween 5 happened. For as much as it's deserved that Friday the 13th just abandons all sorts of continuity, Halloween 2018, you need a roadmap to figure out just how things work out. You don't really need a roadmap. It just essentially erases 2 through Rob Zombie 2. It's weird because 1981's 2 takes place the same night. So, you know, again, you can go down that rabbit hole and really get yourself a headache. But they went in this different direction, and so far it's done quite well as far as I'm concerned. If you're watching stuff like Halloween and slashers and the subgenre itself, and you're really getting hung up on certain elements of where the story's going, yeah, you've missed the boat. Sure, they'll try to tell you a story. They're not going to try that hard. But comedy and horror, the stories are, if you get good stories in comedy and horror, that's really great. But for the most part, they're really there to thrill you. And Halloween 2018, for as tacky as some of the humor is,
Oh man, I got peanut butter on my penis.
just be scary. Don't try so hard with the humor. It does a really, really great job of taking something that's you're supposed to believe is 40 years in the past and kind of pick you up where that would leave off. Yes, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie Strode, she's got some issues. She's all PTSD'd out, and you can totally believe somebody being like that and just being haunted by that experience in their life. And the events of Halloween 2018 play out quite nicely. There's some bending to make sure certain things happen, but again, it's a slasher. That stuff really kind of has to happen. Making sure a story that goes from point A to point B is not the primary focus. This is a movie that ignored 9 sequels and decided to just ignore a sequel that took place on the same night as the first film, with a caveat. My third favorite Halloween movie does not have Michael Myers in it, and I completely understand. If you were to show me your favorite parts of Jason Goes to Hell, or the fact that Jason isn't really in it, I would certainly throw up a little bit in my mouth. Sure, Halloween in name only, fine, I get it. It's a part of the franchise, gotta rank it. This is where it sits on my list. I'm sorry, I really have a good time with it. It feels to me like a really Cronenberg-y type movie, even though Tommy Lee Wallace is the director. Unless, of course, he is related to Cronenberg, then there's that. It was a horror movie that went for a really out there story, and the thrills weren't there, which explains why people weren't really on board with it. This is a good movie. It's not a thrill ride. It's not a comedy. It's not a traditional horror. There's something unique going on with this story. The giveaway is at 9 p.m. though, so I'd better get moving. And my second favorite Halloween film as of 2021 is Halloween Kills. I realize that in due time that this list will need to be updated. This list may change, but For those of you who don't know, I think I've said it 6 or 7 or 38 times by now. I'm a big Friday the 13th fan, and Halloween Kills could be the closest thing to a Friday the 13th movie I've ever seen. And I don't mean that negatively for people who think Friday the 13th movies lack in story. The absolute badass nature in which Michael Myers runs around and just fucks shit up is awe-inspiring. There's a bunch of different storylines that happen there. First of all, make sure that nobody ever brings Tommy to karaoke or open mic night, because I don't think he understands what those things are about, because he does a really shitty job at karaoke open mic night. A hell of a gimmick there with the Johns. I sincerely hope that people aren't hating on this movie for, I don't want to say political, sexual reasons. It does not affect the story. Their location might bother some people. Again, Friday the 13th fan, maybe if the shoe were on the other foot, maybe I'd feel differently, but everything about what happens in Halloween Kills really, really works as far as I'm concerned. And it rewards multiple viewings for 2018. There's things that happen in 2018. There's characters that are in 2018 that you really have to have an eagle eye for. And if you do, it makes you realize that Halloween Kills, oh, these are characters that I've seen before. Let me go back and check. Yeah, they didn't have a speaking role in 2018, but now they're a character who's doing things. Many years ago, I had the concept for a series where the plead, the beg of the horror community was to follow the Marvel landscape and give us cinematic universes within your horror universe. And Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, they're doing that. Whether or not you want that, whether or not you care about insert character here who does not have a speaking part in one role but is effective in another, and that's fine, I can understand that. But it makes it a hell of a lot easier if, God forbid, they want to maybe avoid Laurie Strode in the future and have Michael Myers chase Jeff the Ice Cream Man, who was in Halloween 2018. You could sit back and say, well, that's kind of weird. That's stupid. Why would he chase that? Oh, the ice cream guy. I remember that scene. Again, it rewards multiple viewings. And on top of that, it there's the doggy bag nature. There's that. The gore is absolutely top notch. If you've seen the trailer alone is better than most gory horror movies lately. And that's not even a third of how much Michael Myers fucks shit up. I could see people who are against horror films being up in arms about how powerful Michael Myers is and how indestructible he is, and just how much he just fucks people up. But us fans, he's our anti-hero. We want to see him mow through some people, and you're rewarded. Halloween Kills. It's called Halloween Kills, not Halloween resting at a hospital. And of course, if Jamie Lee Curtis wants to stop doing these movies, you're moving in a different direction even with just Tommy. There's so many different things that you can do. The Johns, their legacy. There's a bunch of different things that they're doing with this modern trilogy probably more, or at least they're setting up the groundwork for more in the Halloween 2018 landscape, and I think that's fantastic. It doesn't always have to be Jamie Lee Curtis. They've tried to do stuff like that in the past, and they've kind of not really figured out what to do, and it seems like the guys here are really setting up the blueprint, and they've completely answered my plead from years back, saying that, you know, horror and slasher franchises need to embrace the comic book type atmosphere and have characters that aren't necessarily, you know, not good guy versus bad guy, but a different person who helped good guy, and now he's got his own movie, and oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna watch my third movie from the Halloween cinematic universe this year. It's possible. It's so much more possible now thanks to Halloween Kills. The only thing I have a question about is, are they really not gonna have it take place immediately after 2 or Kills? Because 2018 and Kills flow together. That they are such a perfect double bill. With what I've read about where they're going for ends, I'm confused, but I digest. And of course, my favorite Halloween movie, shocker, is 1978's Halloween. The trendsetter, the motherfucker that started it all. Thank you, Mr. John Carpenter. And this is something that was made on the cheap, and it doesn't really feel it. How many movies have you seen in the last 5-10 years that the budgets are just so high and the movie just sucks? Halloween 1978 is really great. It still survives the test of time, much unlike what I said about how horror and comedy really they get dated a little bit. Sure, there's certain elements of 78 that are a little dated, but I could pop in 1978 right now and have a really good time with it. That's really all you can ask for is from a movie that's 40 plus years old, is to plug it in, enjoy it, and still be impressed and have a good time. I don't think it's fair to call it a slasher, although it certainly helped kickstart that movement. This is a horror movie. It's a stalk and kill. A lot more lingering fear behind this movie than gore, that's for certain. 1 and 2 on my list. Kills, you got gore. You've got gore, you got a bunch of different elements that really take you for a ride. And number 1, Halloween 1978, is just a really good horror movie. It's a really good slasher. Again, it's a stalk and kill. You think about the fact that Halloween and Alien came out the same time. To be a horror fan back then. So there it is. That is my list as of 2021. What is your list? Let me know down below. I'm expecting a lot of different answers, a lot of CP, you're crazy. But let's open up a discussion. I'm completely willing to hear why I'm crazy, or why I'm stupid, or why you're right and I'm wrong. Let's hear it. And obviously when Ends comes out, this list will be moot, and we'll do it all over again, and maybe 2 or 3 other movies will have shifted by that point. If you enjoyed the video, it means a great deal to me if you click that thumbs up button. If you want to see more content like this in the future, including my Halloween Kills review, which should be up relatively soon, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. and be notified. Everything. You got to click all the buttons. Used to be one button. Subscribe, notify. Now it's you have to type in nuclear warhead codes just to find out when I'm releasing a video. But again, I appreciate all the support. If you'd like to support future projects and get inside tracks and exclusive content, there is, of course, a Patreon page that I have. Thank you to my patrons, of course. It is patreon.com/WILIscredia. I have a merch store which includes my Blumhouse shirt. If you don't know the story behind that, go ahead and ask me and I'll tell you how this came to be. This is a original design. This is in my store if you'd like to rock the Blumhouse Yikes shirt. But again, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you watching till this very end, and we will see you very soon for the Halloween Kills review, and probably a little bit later after that for the spoiler talk.